Okay, I'm going to overview just a couple of areas of the research. There's been a lot done on service learning in the education research. It's been a very popular model, instructional model, and approach for a lot of years. And overall, the research on service learning is very favorable for all kinds of student learning outcomes. There's a paragraph and 1 minute read that will summarize the research that follows this screencast. For now, I'm going to give you just two ways of thinking about service learning and its tie in to student learning. The first bit of research is recent neuroscience research. The lead researcher is a woman, Dr. Imordino Yang, who was a science teacher turned neuroscience researcher. And she has a visual metaphor, which I'm using here, borrowing it from her to showcase the relationship between emotional learning and our thinking. Um, she phrases this body of research as the science of engagement. So basically, here's what happens. When we emotionally engage with a topic, we learn it better. The emotional engagement is the shelf. The items on the shelf are the parts of our cognition that help us understand something and learn it deeply. The emotional part of engagement facilitates the cognition. So we learn more deeply when we're emotionally engaged in something. It's like without the shelf, the items are just sort of scattered around. But with the shelf, they're organized, they're lifted up, they're supported. And that's what we want. We want to use methods, tools, approaches, strategies that engage students emotionally so that they're using all of their brain to learn. And that's what neuroscience tells us. What's the tie in to service learning here? Well, service learning is all about emotionally engaging. You see something beyond what you're doing in your classroom as important and valuable and needed. And all of a sudden, you're now emotionally tied to that process. You want to act, you want to engage because it's perhaps the right thing to do, or somebody needs help and you want to be that helper. I think as humans, that's what we're here for. We know that as humans, we're highly collaborative and we connect and we need to connect. And so service learning is providing that process and approach to learning that is very emotionally engaging. So service learning in a way is like the shelf, and it's really supporting students deeper learning and all the thinking that they do on a particular topic or the skills that they're developing as they're enacting that change in their community. The second body of research comes from John Hattie and his colleagues. Dr. Hattie, who is an Australian researcher, you may remember his name from the 2010s when he introduced the idea of visible learning. And there are factors that really support learning and achievement. Some factors do so better than others. And he has updated with his team, he's updated the syntheses of all the research done in education to identify the strength and power of factors on student learning. Some are more powerful than other. His visual metaphor is the stoplight. And there are some factors that we should stop and we should try to end because they diminish learning opportunities, learning and achievement. Some are like the yellow light, and they're good, they're okay, they're not hurting students. And then some are in the green, and they're really powerful for learning, even potentially accelerating learning and closing gaps. His research team uses a statistic called an effect size. In fact, they do weighted mean effect sizes, which simply means they're taking lots and lots of studies and finding an average effect size. Hattie says that zero point 0.4, that decimal point, when we see it, it is giving us a value of good strength. So zero point 0.4 is a hinge point, that's his language, for a year's worth of input or teaching generates a year's worth of learning. So when we see a zero point 0.4 next to a factor, we can say, ooh, that's growing kids' skills, helping them learn in a way that it's, a year of teaching is a year of learning. And that's really good. And that's what we want. So what you see here on the screen are some effect sizes next to some factors that have been, again, synthesized from all the literature on the particular topic or focus that you see on the screen. So chronic absenteeism with a negative 0.46, actually students are losing a year's worth of learning for a year's worth of teaching or experience in the school year. And that's obviously, something that we're working very, very hard on to support student attendance. Homework at 0.29, again, not bad. It's supporting learning, but service learning is higher than 0.4. If 0.4 is a year's worth of learning for a year's worth of school or engaging in teaching and learning, at 0.52, that's even higher. So that's really positive for learning. You can say that when there's high quality service learning, students are growing at the rate that they should be growing. And all of the authentic learning models actually have very high mean effect sizes, which supports the idea that service learning does support achievement and learning, and it's a good model to use. So a little bit of the research, not a lot. Again, the summary statement that follows gives you a sense of all the factors that have been studied or all the elements of student learning and development that have been found to be beneficial, or service learning is beneficial for many factors of student learning and student development. But highlighting these two just because they're more recent and they're very compelling, and they give us the credibility that we need in choosing, in this case, the service learning instructional approach.